Hey guys, it's Christina. This is Vox and Guest, and I am joined today in the most precarious looking place possible by my good friend Lewis Tivey. Lewis, how are you, my dear, besides squished and cramped but looking really cool and awesome at the same time?
Yeah, kind of hot at the moment. Hopefully I don't pass out from dehydration, but we'll see. It could make it more interesting.
No. My goodness.
Halfway through, I'm just...
Lewis is being very thoughtful to not wake anyone or blind anyone, and so he's battling slugs and spiders and moths and heat and all sorts of things just to talk to us, which I feel like I really have to step up my interviewing game just to make it worth it for you. But so I'm going to start with a thoughtful question.
Yep.
A pensive, meaningful question. Okay, and then we'll lighten things up a little bit. So
sure.
Somebody bequeaths you an elephant. Okay, you cannot sell it, and you cannot give it away. What are you doing with your new elephant?
Well, I love elephants anyway, so I'd more than happy ride it to work, but I don't know if that's legal in the UK. Not something I've really checked, but
we're going to have to get on that. We're going to have to look at local ordinances around elephant transportation. Where are you keeping it? Not in that room, I don't think. I don't think you would fit in there.
The garden's probably not big enough. I'm not sure. I don't think my mum would be very happy. Recently, I basically photoshopped a pig and put it on our garden, and then I uploaded it to Instagram, like as a practical joke. And she messaged me and she's like, "What are you two thinking? Getting a pig? It's going to destroy your garden." The picture's all on there. I had to admit it was photoshopped in the end. It got really out of hand.
You always run the risk of that with parents, right? That you're like, oh, this is going to be funny. And then it's like, it devastates them. So I just love the fact that she thought that you bought a pig or got a pig and that the main concern was the garden, not the children.
I moved out like 5 years ago. I'm like, what's it matter to you? But
okay, so you're keeping the elephant. The elephant can hang out with the pig. You just send a picture of it to your mom, tell her I gave it to you, and then she can come and she can yell at me.
And this one is not photoshopped.
No, this is an actual legit elephant just hanging out like, what's up, everybody? Okay. All right. So you're pro elephant. This is good. This is good to know. If I ever have to get you anything for your birthday, my list is already checked off. So, okay, Lewis, you have been, I've been so waiting to talk to you because you were one of the most excited people about scheduling this interview in the first place. You have this awesome logo, which those with the keen eyes will spy behind you to your right on the left of the screen there.
And I made a little thing for it.
It's so awesome. And those have been up on Facebook and in Reels and on Instagram and everything. And I was like, oh, that's it. So, okay, I have a ton of things to talk to you about, but I'm going to start simple. We'll go all the way back, or however far back I guess it is. How did you get into music? How did you land on your instruments? What's your musician origin story?
So it goes quite far back. So I was 15-ish, so 2005.
Okay.
Basically, at school, I was never one of the popular kids. Struggled to fit in a little bit, and then we kind of had these different cliques when I was at school. And you was either into your hip hop and that type of thing, or you was with the rockers and all that. And I was like, I want to hang out with these guys, but I don't have the first clue what to do. At the same time, I needed a hobby as well. And I said to my mum, it was either my birthday or just before Christmas. I can't really remember. It was December time, either way. And she was like, "Oh, what do you want?" And I was like, "Oh, I really want a guitar." Not a clue how to play it, how they work, anything like that.
Just wanted one.
Yeah. And she was like, "But you're terrible at music." And I'm like, "But I did record a class at school." And I was like, "I know, but like, yeah, I ended up getting one." And then
Mom is so supportive.
Yeah.
Between the pig and the guitar. Okay. Well, but they did get you a guitar.
And then drove them mad for like 6 months. But all I could play was like Smoke on the Water on one string. Near enough. Yeah.
that would drive any parent crazy after a while. So okay. So you taught yourself how to play?
Yeah. I did have one guitar lesson ever, and it was it wasn't great, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
I actually asked for a refund. That's how bad it was.
No, what was was it just like, what was so bad about it?
I'm not technical at all, like not even slightly. If you asked me to read music, I wouldn't have a clue. I don't even know the names of chords and that type of, it's just how I've always been. When we're recording, Trench loses his temper with me sometimes because I've got no sense of tempo. I've always been sort of free flowing and all that,
You like to play legato, you're just doing your own thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But and then after it was pretty much a hobby. And then I remember one day at high school, there was this, I guess you could call it a battle of the bands.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I saw my friend playing at the show, and they covered a Muse song, and I was like, I want to be like them. That's when it really started taking over.
Okay.
Couldn't find, there was plans in place, but no one ever was. We had band names, we had cover art, everything. Didn't play once together. And then when school,
you got the important stuff down, the name and the logo and all that, but just not the music part. That's all. That was the only thing that was missing. Just one thing. And okay.
I left school after that. Went to college, and literally I was like, I need to get in a band. I just have to. I've always said I would. So I went scouring the internet. Mum started freaking out, like, oh, don't meet up with strangers and all that. I'm like, I'm 18, it's fine. Met with some guys from a few towns away, and we were together for about 4 years, I guess.
Okay.
And then it kind of proceeded. But by this point, I was a bass player.
Okay. So you somewhere in there picked up the bass after one failed guitar lesson. You picked up bass. So what made you decide to? Was it just because there were already guitar players and that you needed a bass player? What made you decide
to? No. It was kind of weird because when I first took up guitar, I loved Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath, and I was like, I'm going to be like that someday. And then after maybe a year or so, I'm like, I'm not going to be like Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath. And by this point, I was kind of going through my punk phase.
Okay.
And I probably chose the worst inspiration, Sid Vicious, who couldn't play at all. And I was like, you know what? That'll suit me fine. So that's kind of where
he'll be easier than Tommy Iommi to emulate. So yeah, okay. You're just setting the bar a little bit differently there. So, okay. So what I'm hearing then is that you basically heard or saw what you wanted to do and then just decided to learn how to do it. So
yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so it wasn't like your parents were super musical, nobody was putting you in lessons and whatever. You just went, I want to do that thing that I see over there. Or I want to play like that guy over there.
I'm the only musician in my entire family.
Really?
Yeah,
that's it.
The whole family, even extended, like cousins and all that. Just me.
It's just you. Wow. So you're the family entertainment then.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't think they're a fan of my stuff, but yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you could be the family entertainment if they wanted you to be. We'll put it that way. So, okay. So I want to, before we get too far, because you already mentioned, we are not, unfortunately, joined today by Trenchgun, John, but we were going to be. So why don't you talk a little bit about him in his stead? And your collaboration, because I get the sense that you guys are, it seems like the relationship there is a key driver of the music, and you guys just seem so locked in with each other. So I'm bummed that he can't be here, but why don't you talk a little bit about John Trenchgun and sort of key us into how you guys met, actually.
Yep. So funny story, actually. I think it was through an interview. We did an interview, I think it was October last year. I think we'd already started following each other online, if I recall. Maybe spoke once or twice, but I listened. Basically, Grimrock was waiting for his interview to come out. I watched his, and then mine came out. So that was out. And then I was, because I got on quite well with the host, I was like, you know what, I'm going to be supportive. I'm going to watch the other one. So I watched his interview, and then I realized he was an Army veteran. And me being Army, immediately I messaged him, was like, I didn't know that, and we didn't start playing together straight away. We just built a friendship over time. That's one of the great things about the internet. Mm-hmm. You could literally, he's from LA.
Isn't he in LA? Yeah. And you're overseas, so you never would have met otherwise.
No, we just get on so well. Some of the stuff we say to each other, you think we're enemies, but we just get on like a house on fire. But even then, we didn't start really playing together until probably about maybe 6 months ago, because I
I didn't realize it was that recent. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to do because I always used to mix it, record everything, write everything, record it, mix it myself. But I'll openly admit I'm not the best at mixing.
Okay.
And then
not easy.
No. And I'd wanted to do a collaboration for a while. I'm still waiting to do one with Grim. I've been asking for.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about Joel too from Grimrock, but yeah, because you have a couple of really tight bromances going here, both musically and otherwise.
Oh, yeah.
So okay, so you wanted to do a collab, but
yeah, I guess time just got in the way because we're all busy guys. Work gets in the way, and yeah, but I just messaged him one day and I was like, oh, I really want to do a punk rock version of Seed You because it sounds like if you punked it up, I reckon it'd sound like a whole different song.
Yeah.
Thinking he was just going to like maybe do a few backup vocals or, a little backup guitar or anything like that. Next thing I know, he's recorded the whole song there.
I was going to say totally reworked it. Yeah, completely.
And he goes, oh, slap some vocals on that. But because the rhythm was so out of it, I was like, I don't think I can sing along to that. So I just did the backup vocals and I did the guitar solo for it, if you can call it a solo.
I love that he reworked your song to the point where you couldn't sing along to it.
And it's better. I said to him, thanks for making the original sound
even better than it did. Yeah. No, it's because it's cool because I'll jump around a little bit here. You have a couple of really distinct genres and specific genres that seem to be your major influences, right? So you've got like the late 70s, early 80s kind of punk heavy metal vibe that clearly I hear in your music. And correct me on any of this if I'm wrong. And then I'm also hearing lots of Seattle grunge 90s, like kind of, and putting those things together gives you a really distinctive sound. And it's what I find interesting about it is that sometimes in a song, I'll hear all of those things.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you'll have one song that's just straight ahead one thing, and then the next song is completely different. So like, I guess I'm wondering what bands were you listening to that, because you said when you were 15 or whatever, you were kind of getting into your punk phase. Like, I'm trying to do the math a little bit. I think I have a sense, but what were the bands that got you started on? I mean, first of all, my write about those influences, is that kind of your...
So Black Sabbath was probably my first major influence. I did love the Seattle sound as a kid because obviously I was growing up during it. Probably my first favorite band was Soundgarden. I must have been like age 7 or something like that,
Okay. Good taste for 7, yeah.
Yeah, but this was the thing when I was in a band, because we started off with like a kind of a Judas Priest Black Sabbath vibe. Mm-hmm. But while I was at college, I heard the song "Come As You Are" by Nirvana.
Nirvana, yeah, I hear them with you too. Yeah, okay.
Well, that's probably my biggest influence, because after that, literally, it just completely changed the band. I was like, I don't want to do this heavy stuff no more. I want to be more grungy, and yeah, it didn't it kind of worked at first, but by the end it didn't, and the difference was too much. Yeah,
I guess if you started in one place, then them following you there would maybe be a bridge too far. I could see that. Okay.
And it's not really changed in 15 years maybe now. So yeah.
Well, it's funny you mentioned "Come As You Are" specifically, because I was listening to Never Better.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what this reminds me? And again, I always make sure to mention when I compare bands or songs or whatever to the artists that I'm interviewing, I always mean it in a complimentary way. It didn't sound derivative of it, but I was like, I'm like, this is reminding me of something. And I'm going, "Come as you are." And I'm like, oh, that's what it is. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. So like it because you start with almost like the... and forgive me for this, but I always think of like Nirvana has what I like to call mosquito guitar, where it's like that, and it just sounds a little bit.
There's something I didn't actually use it on that song, but I use what's called an EBO. I don't know.
Oh, sure, yeah, okay.
I use that on probably 90% of my songs now.
It wasn't. Oh, that's what that is. Okay, yeah. So, but it has that Nirvana feel to it, and I really I could see that in your and I can see Soundgarden too. Like you do especially the stuff that you're doing like specifically with Trenchgun. I think there's a lot of that sort of low end, heavy, kind of dirtier sound that you've got. So,
Yeah.
okay. So Nirvana, Soundgarden, Black
Alice in
Sabbath,
Chains.
Judas Priest, Alice in Chains.
That's probably my
Absolutely.
second favorite. Yeah.
Okay. That I heard Alice in Chains, unless it's a cover and I'm mistaken, but you have an acoustic version of High Noon, I think, on is it SoundCloud, Bandcamp, something?
SoundCloud. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one I wrote. Oh goodness. I kind of had a hiatus from music when I was about mid-20s, and
Okay.
then I got back into it, and that's one of the. I did like a little EP, but I was never
Yes.
happy with it.
Okay.
So I removed most of it from online probably about last year.
Okay. I was
That's the whole
wondering
story.
where that song fit. Okay. So that was from an EP that we don't have access to anymore.
I don't think I've got access to it. I don't think I got the files anymore.
Oh no. Oh, you really didn't like it. Okay. So
No.
but no, I heard some Alice in Chains in there, definitely. And again, not that you were biting from them, but I
Yeah.
like when I can hear influences in people's music, especially if it's a band that I like, and I like all of those bands. I'm not a huge Nirvana fan. And I know I'm, people will set me on fire for saying that or whatever, but like Soundgarden and Alice in Chains, like you can't, nobody, I don't think there's anybody that doesn't like those bands, but okay. So and in terms of punk, what's your
Sex Pistols?
Okay. I thought maybe. Okay. Cause again, I like Soundgarden to me, I hear and Let It Rain. Right. Okay. Then that's from and I know we're jumping around a lot, but so, but as we're talking, I'm thinking of your different songs.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Then like, Sex Pistols, I think, what is Friendly Neighborhood Infiltrator, right? You've got like,
so that's
a very Sex Pistol song to me. Very Sex Pistol, like Ramones, Sex Pistols kind of thing.
Funny story behind that one. That's kind of what got me back into music, that one. So I wrote
after the hiatus, or
going way back. So
even
when
before?
I was in the band, our guitarist, he was amazing. We don't get on really anymore, but
okay, yeah, it happens.
But like he was amazing, but all the songs seemed to have like, the solos seemed to go on forever, and I just wanted just a dead basic. I'm not technical, I'll openly admit to that. But when I write a song, I'll probably write 50 songs and only one will make the cut, because I like it to be, I just like something that's catchy, that sticks in people's heads,
Sure.
like the kind of like the Beatles, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I basically came up with that, and it was one of the most popular songs we did, and
it's very catchy. It really is.
It used to annoy him and a few of the others, because I've stayed up all night writing this and blah blah. I think I wrote it in about 5 minutes, and then basically what happened was I recorded it by myself. We recorded it when we was in the band, and it sounds terrible. It really does.
Okay.
Probably down to me, to be fair. I tried to record it again when I was after that short hiatus, and then when I started doing music again last year, because I've only really been going for a year. Right. That's what started it off. We was in the block at work at the barracks, and people, oh, who's got a guitar? And I wasn't even playing them. I just was keeping them safe in my room. And I was, oh, I've got one. And then showing off as you do. I was like, oh, here's one I wrote a few years ago. And I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I was like, I might re-record that. And then I did. And that's kind of where it went from there.
Got you back in. Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. So it was an older song that you brought back that you reworked, or at least re-recorded. Okay. So just to give everybody, I told you I had a lot of questions for you, and I want to make sure I'm not losing people in the little translation here, because we're speaking Lewis, and maybe not everybody does yet. But so you have the EP that came out, Bittersweet, last year. Okay, so that's got was that 4 songs?
Yeah, 4 songs, I believe.
Right. Okay. So I'm sure people have heard about Seed You. They've heard us talk about it already today. And then Architect and Flock, and then Friendly Neighborhood Infiltrator. So you've got the 4 songs from last year. And then you are back now with Subsistence, which is coming out gradually, right? Okay. So you have 4 Well, I did see that you just decided on your set list and your order and everything. So
A lot of them are nearly done. I'm working on them. Another one is nearly done. There's another one that's practically done, and then there's like 3 more. But I'm hoping to have Grimm on one of them as well.
Yeah, that would be very cool. Okay, yeah. So there are, and we'll stop for a second and play it in a minute here, because again, I'm trying to reassure the audience that I'm remembering to play the songs earlier on in the show now than I used to. But so the most recent single is Alien Nation, right? That's the one that we're going to be playing in a minute. Okay, and you've got Let It Rain, which again, I was getting such Soundgarden vibes from that, like Black Hole Sun, kind of like it's so gritty, and I really different from Alien Nation. And I like that because I'm hearing a lot of variety in the singles that you've already released. And as I said, Never Better had like a Come As You Are thing to me. Freudian Slip was kind of like, it's not like, it's the least like the other 3 of anything else on the album to me. And I liked it all. I'm so interested to hear what the remaining 6 are going to be like, because I have not been able to pin this album down yet, I love that. Yeah, I love that. So how intentional is that? And then, well, you know what? Wait, no, I'm going to shut myself up. We're going to play Alien Nation first. Do you want to say a little bit about that before we play it? And then we can come back and get into, the how the album is shaping up and all of that. But so for Alien Nation, what do you want to tell people about this song as they're about to listen?
So I just kind of felt like I was going too heavy a little bit. And I just wanted something a little bit more poppy, something you can kind of dance to, jam to, all that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I had I knew the sound I wanted to get, but I couldn't get it. And then I was sat there one night and I was just playing away, messing around. I think I actually did like a little video on my Instagram where I came up with a riff and was like, this is it. This is the one. And then I worked on it for a while. But it sounded quite different originally. And then Trenchgun got involved with it. And I said, don't change it too much. Just add your little bit and the timing. Yeah. He sent it back and bits were cut out here and there. And it was slightly different. But I was like, you know what? It's better than it was.
You liked it better. Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. So let's let everybody listen from the upcoming album Subsistence. This is Lewis Tivey with Alien Nation.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So Trench didn't change it too much.
No. It's the original just sounds. I might still release it one day. The original just sounds a bit more, a bit slower, I'd say, and it's got more. Like the Nirvana Bleach album, it's almost got that kind of vibe to it more, rather than the more poppy, punky.
Yeah, it's a little darker. Yeah. Okay. But So I was starting to ask you then, because the 4 singles that I've heard so far, and I think you just put out a little snippet. You're filming a new video.
Yeah,
for
School
the 5th.
Of Misfits.
Right. So that also has a different sound. So from the 4 and a little bit of the 5th that you've released so far, you're not getting comfortable in any one genre. You're not getting comfortable with any one sound. Are you doing that on purpose? Are you trying to mix it up with every song? Are these things that were always intended to be on the same album? Or is it just you're releasing them as they come to you and then you're going to gather them? It seems like you have a plan.
Yeah. So originally I was releasing them as singles, but I don't just want to release them all as singles. So now I'm holding off. Believe me, it's killing me not to release them.
Oh, okay.
So I've released 4, and then there's another 4. I'm trying to hold on.
I thought you were going to do. I thought there were going to be 10 altogether. Yeah.
There might be more. There might even be more than that. It depends how long it goes on for. Okay. I've got loads, and I want to do some acoustic stuff too, but it depends whether I get time and.
Would you put that on Subsistence if you did acoustic, or would you just do like a separate acoustic EP or something like that?
I'm not sure, because me and Trench are working on a punk rock single, like EP as well.
Cool.
We haven't really started it that much. The punk rock version of Seiju's going on it. He's a bit of a perfectionist, so he's remixed it about 10 times. So I'm just leaving that to him.
You're like, whenever it's done, it'll be done, and I'm just not even going to ask. Okay.
But I've wrote the backbone to quite a few of them, and they don't sound anything like what like I've released so far. It's very it sounds almost like the Ramones.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
So I thought to myself, should I release some? And I was like, nah. I know you say all my songs sound different, but I think it sound too different. I don't think it'd work. So
I got you.
Up on them.
Well, so what about Unbreakable? Because you and Trench put that out, and that's another one that's very different. That almost read to me more like not exactly like a 9 Inch Nails kind of vibe, but it had more of that. Just it was very kind of dark and intense and like sludgy, and then there's all this kind of metal, still rock. Like that's a departure for you guys. So that's not going on the punk album that you guys are doing? I was gonna say, so is that just sort of a standalone, or?
Well, Trench tends to write a lot heavy stuff anyway,
right?
And he basically said, "Who wants to do an anti-fascist song?" And I was like, "Oh, I'll do it," type thing, And yeah. So I was like, what do you want me to do? And it was like, just scream on it. And I went, okay, what am I screaming? He's like, just go for it. I'm like, yeah, but what am I screaming? And he's like, it doesn't matter. And I was like, can you at least send me the lyrics? So we did that. And I think that's all I did on that. I have done, do you know them weird alien sustain sounds? I did that on another one for him. I can't remember what it was called.
You do have that. And you scream on other songs of yours too. It's not like you don't do script, but there's like metal screaming and there's punk screaming, and it's kind of different screaming to me. But I mean, like when you're screaming, are you like there were lyrics there, but like I couldn't make them out, to be honest. But I mean, like what does that all feel the same to you when you're screaming for vocals, or is it, if it's punk, it's more like a angry thing, and if it's more metal, it's different? Like, so how does that work for you?
Well, the earliest stuff, I wasn't very good at screaming, so I used to do that kind of whispering sort of death metal type thing, just to hide that I couldn't do it.
Okay.
And then I just kept practicing, and then it was like, I think it was last Christmas, actually, near enough. So we had a Christmas party at work, and I'd been really struggling to record Freudian Slip.
Okay.
I'd had quite a few of the older beers by this point.
Yeah.
And I went back to my room back at the barracks, and I was like, I'm going to do this. There's probably like 10 other versions I've got of it from the original. And yeah, I just plugged in and went for it, and I was like, that worked. So, and then ever since then, I've just kind of been able to do it. So,
okay, yeah, because it's I wasn't expecting it necessarily when I first heard it, because again, like, you know, on a song like Seed You, obviously once you did a punk version of it,
yeah, I couldn't do it on the original.
No, I mean, like that you know, but it works, you know, and I found myself surprised by how well, even over things that I would think of as being really very punk, that kind of a, I mean, do you consider it a metal scream? Do you consider it a punk scream that you're doing? Or are you just screaming and you don't really care what you call it? That's the way that you're expressing.
It's pretty much that. And I guess I've practiced it that much now. It comes natural. I can kind of talk like it. You know what I mean? I had like a music coach last year, like a little music course I took, because as I say, I'm not very musical, and I was like, why is it taking me 1,000 attempts to record vocals, and I just get lucky on one, you know?
I see.
And then I had a few lessons on the courses, and I did all right on them. And then, yeah, I just pretty much stuck with that. And after that, it's, yeah.
So you had like one guitar lesson, no bass lessons, and a couple of like classes around. I guess was it for vocals specifically, the ones that you were just talking about?
Yeah, but it wasn't one-on-one though. It was just like a course. You click the video. This is how you do this. Okay, and then. Okay.
So I mean, so obviously with you being in the UK and Trench being in LA, when you put together a song, like, you know, any like Alien Nation or whatever, do you start, I gotta think you start with a guitar riff in your head. I gotta think that's where the song starts, but maybe it doesn't.
So normally there's a moth in
There's
it.
the moth.
So how it normally works is I come up with the guitar. That's how I always start off. And then I used to add the bass, but this bass I've got is so old and busted from my band days when I used to launch it across the stage and stuff like that. It doesn't sound great now.
But they generally tend to prefer not to be tossed around.
Yeah. Drums I've never been able to do. There's quite an epic picture of me playing drums. I'm not actually playing drums. It was just a still I took many years ago.
It looked like you were playing drums. That's all.
Yeah, it looked all right, didn't it? But yeah, I used to pay a session drummer to do it, so that's how I got around that.
Oh, okay.
And then it was Alien Nation actually. So I'd done my usual because once I had the all instruments set down, I'd add the vocals at that point. So I sent it to Trenchgun and said, here you go, add your drums, because originally he was only supposed to do drums, you know. And then he sent me the song back, and I was like, why does the bass sound so good? And he said, I may have re-recorded it.
I may have redone it.
Yeah.
Thrown yours away.
Cheers for that. So now he does bass and drums, and I just do like the guitar and the
So you sent him your bass, and of which we apparently never speak again, and guitars and vocals, and then he was putting the drums down last. Because that's
kind of in the middle. It's in and out. If you're with me, there's no real set pattern to it. The guitar comes first, and then bass kind of shifts around. But yeah, as I say, I've got no sense of tempo. You know, he's tried to get me to record to a metronome, and it just wasn't happening.
Wasn't going to happen. You're too punk for that. You're too punk for it, Lewis. You can't be held down by things like time, tempo. That's what the man wants you to do. So fuck it. You were just going to play whatever we want to play at whatever tempo we want.
Yeah.
But okay. But but when you're writing to begin with, because you glossed over it, but I'm interested in the whole, because there's the songwriting bit at the beginning, and then there's, you know, the collaboration on the actual instrumentation, and then there's all the mixing and mastering. But so when you're writing a song, what do you usually begin with? Not recording it, but just like, do you get a guitar riff in your head and go, oh, okay, that's something that I'm going to write a song for? Or do you get a beat? Do you have even just a tempo that you want to go for? You're just like,
no.
So where do your song ideas generally tend to start?
So usually if I'm trying to write a new song and it doesn't always work, you know, there's been some very disappointed evenings where I've sat there, I'm going to write a new song, and I'll sit there strumming my guitar, and then it leads nowhere. And then I'll pick up the old guitar one night, and then literally within seconds, that's a good, you know, melodic riff.
Okay.
I have tried to do the whole, I'll hear something in my head, and then I'll be like, oh, I need to pull the car over. I'll pull it over. I'll get my phone out, and then I'm like, start humming it. But I'll either forget about it, and then I'll find loads of random videos of me humming, or that's pretty much it. Or
so you'll start with a riff.
I'll have an idea, but it very rarely comes out. It's normally, once I've got it recorded down on guitar, I can pretty much do it from there.
Okay. Because I mean, you like it. Some of the songs are not particularly. The lyrics are in the service of the vibe, right? So, like with punk music, I think if you actually do listen, sometimes the lyrics are really saying something, and sometimes it's basically just like yeah, you know, whatever, and just in the genre in general. But like you have. There are some like Let It Rain, I think specifically, those lyrics are pretty intense. You know, it felt so, you know, lonely and kind of longing and, you know, just somebody who's kind of displaced and, you know, at sea, literally and figuratively and whatever. And like, how did that one happen? Because that's, I mean, for me, that again, that was the one that kind of reminded me the most of yours, of Soundgarden, you know, and that's a band that has great lyrics too. But did the lyrics come to you first on that one? Because it just seemed, oh, really? Okay.
So that's another old one. Originally, it was called Sunday Rain when I was in the band. Another one I wrote, and I rewrote it. It had the same kind of riff to it, but it sounded a little bit different.
Okay.
A little bit different, but the lyrics were completely different. I mean, we used to joke and call it the suicide song because everyone was like, "Oh, this is depressing." You know,
really sad. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, it is. It is pretty sad. I mean, I don't know. I like to think there's a tiny bit of hope in there, but yeah, it is definitely a gut punch.
I don't know. I was just sat there and I just couldn't come up with any lyrics for it, even slightly. And then I was like, what? I knew I wanted something water involved. That's all I can explain. I was like, Let It Rain. And another thing as well of it was, I've noticed quite a few of my songs, the names of them have already been done by other people.
Okay.
And when I found out it was a Foo Fighters song, I was like, nope. You know, cause I do like the Foo Fighters, but like, it's going to get buried.
Well, that's it. Yeah, you want something that's going to be distinctive, or at least not like 1,100 other songs. Yeah. So, okay, but so even with a song like that, where like Let It Rain, where the lyrics are really thoughtful and meaningful and you know, like a big feature of the song, even with that, it didn't start lyrically. You had the music, and it sounds like for quite a while. So you like to rework your older stuff, I'm getting, you know, either new versions of it or just like is it sort of like you weren't satisfied with what they sounded like? Okay.
And some of them, one of them, that the one that's called Faithless Martyr, that's
going to be on the new album.
That's what I want to do with Grimm. That's based on an old one that I did on my own, but I never liked how it was mixed and the drums. It just didn't. It sounded more like a Gary Newman song to me originally, and I was like, yeah, and I do like Gary Newman. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, that's not the type of vibe I'm going for.
I cannot see you doing a Gary Newman song. But yeah, okay, okay, okay. But so then you tend to start with a riff, and it sounds like once you get inspired by something, it seems to come out pretty quickly. So it's kind of like loaves and fishes for you writing. Like you'll either sit down and try to write something and nothing will come, or you'll sit down and you'll start writing and it's like, boom, I have the riff. I know where I'm going with this. And then how long after you've got your core riff do you usually feel like you're done and either ready to send it to Trench, or like, you know, do the songs tend to get done pretty quickly, just writing them, at least not necessarily recording them, or is it a slower process or song to song?
It depends. I mean, Bittersweet was really quick. I don't know how I managed it. I think I did it in the space of about 2 months. Which
okay, wow.
And it's
From like when you got the first idea to when it was done.
Yeah, literally.
Okay.
Whereas like Seed You, for example, that's probably the only song I've got where the lyrics are coherent. I was kind of going for my normal vibe, and then I don't know, I kind of kept with lyrics, and I thought they were funny, so I showed them to my neighbor back at the barracks, and she was like, "You know what? That's quite good." And I was like, "I'm keeping that." So that's probably the only coherent one.
Yeah, your neighbor was good on that one. I'm glad she said that. Yeah.
But in regards to how long it takes, it varies. I mean, Never Better took me literally 6 months because I just couldn't figure out a vocal melody for it.
Oh, wow.
And I think Alien Nation wasn't far behind that because probably more 4 months for that one.
Okay.
But it had a very different vocal melody originally. And
so that seems to be the holdup then, generally.
Vocals, yeah.
Something's going to slow you down. And not just the lyrics, but even the melody line.
Yeah.
Huh. So what do you chalk that up to? Is it just that's not something that you ever particularly focused on, or do you get too much in your head about it? Like, why do you think that seems to be like a recurring obstacle?
I don't know. I just don't like doing vocals. That seems to be the thing. But once I get into it, I'll do loads, and then I won't do a song for a little bit, and then I'm like, I don't want to do vocals, and then I'll get back into it. If say like Trench messages me and says, "Oh, can you add backup vocals on this song?" Because it doesn't bother me doing that even slightly. It's my own, And then once I'm like, "Oh, well, I did it yesterday. Might as well start mine now." And then that's how it goes.
You just get into the groove of it. Yeah.
I always put it off till last minute, and I'm not sure why.
Well, I mean, it's, and I feel like we were at a good point where we should definitely talk about your buddy Grim. But like when I was interviewing Grimrock for the show, he was like, I hate singing. I hate doing vocals. I hate doing it. And I was like, why? And he's like, well, I don't really like the way I do them. And it's like the least interesting part for me. And it sounds like you guys have that in common as well. So let us discuss the absolute buddy movie that is Lewis Tivey and Joel from Grimrock, because you guys, we spent a lot of time talking about you during Grim's interview. And so how did you guys hook up? Because again, he's in PA and you're overseas, and it sounded like, was it from the same interview show, or did you guys meet? Okay. You knew before each other before that. Okay.
Yeah, but only shortly before that. Basically what happened, when I put out Bittersweet, I was like, it's got a little bit of traction on SoundCloud, but I never really push it. Okay. So I was like, I need to find more social media. So I hated Twitter back now it's my main one.
Okay.
And I think it was like my first week on Twitter or something like that. And I saw this random artist saying, "Who wants free merch?" And I was like, "Oh, is this how Twitter works?" "Yeah, I will," which turned out to be Grim.
Yes. Okay.
Literally a week later, I get all these postcards and whatnot in the post. And
he's so awesome.
Yeah, he is. And we started just messaging occasionally. And then we're literally best buds now. We talk every day. I mean, he's probably messaging me now. It wouldn't surprise me.
He's like, "I'm talking to Christina. I can't answer you now." But no, I mean, you guys, it's so great because I didn't realize initially that you two, because why would I know that you guys were close. And when we first decided to do this show and we opened up, signups for interviews or whatever, you two were making me laugh so hard on Facebook because you had signed up and you put out a little graphic with your logo saying like, "Oh, I signed up for an interview with Vox and Guest." And then Grim was like, "Okay, I'm going to put a little post out about it now." So he did something with his thing. And then you came back with like a little reel where you had everything moving or whatever. Grim was like, "I'm going to have to come out with a full length video to one up Lewis." And at first I was like, and I'm like, these guys have to be friends, because this would be the weirdest thing to be passive aggressive about. Like if they didn't actually get along, like this show that doesn't even exist yet. And so he came out and, there was the whole video. And then you didn't answer. And I remember saying to Grim, I was like, "Gee, maybe you won this one." And he was like, "Nah." He's like, "Lewis always wins." So I realized that you guys were close. And then, your beautiful bride graces the haunted video that Grimrock did. So for those of you who didn't watch the Grimrock episode yet, and shame on you if you haven't, you wouldn't know this, but Lewis's beautiful wife is the, as Grim was referring to her, the goth model for the haunted video. So how did you guys? I'm assuming you weren't in the States filming that.
No.
Okay.
So Grimm's always. We're not actually married yet. We refer to each other as husband and wife. We've been
Yeah,
together
who cares?
years. Yeah. So
if you feel like you are, then you are. You call each other whatever the heck you want. I'm
the
down.
missus.
Yeah.
So he messaged me one day and he randomly goes, can I, it was something like, can I use or borrow your wife? And I was like, he didn't even tell me what for. And I went, yeah, sure. And
that's a friend right there.
Yeah.
You either really trust him or you guys have a really interesting marriage, pre-marriage, whatever. But yeah, okay. So, okay. So that was and you agreed to it and then found out, thankfully, it was a video and not something.
He said, oh, your wife's quite gothy, isn't she? And I went, yeah, why? And he goes, I want a goth chick for my video. And I'm like, yeah, no worries. So it was in the garden here. We did it. And
okay,
we did like I don't think he's uploaded it. We did a behind the scenes video and I'm walking like a crab with my phone, like filming her,
trying to film around the pig in the garden. Yeah.
She's getting burnt by the candle, the wax is going down, and I'm like, will you hold the candle still, please? I'm trying to make a video. And
my fingers are burning.
Yeah. And then we sent
it's art, baby, it's art.
He pretty much did the rest of it, so that's how we did that.
It looked so cool, and like she has such a great, I mean, she's beautiful obviously, but she has such a great look. And I remember first watching the video because we played it a couple months ago on our Absolute Clown Shoes show, and I was like, wow, I'm like, where did Grimm hook up with like the sexy mama over here or whatever? And then when he did the show and he was like, yeah, that's Lewis's wife. I was like, no, I did not know that, but that was nice of you to lend your bride to someone. But so you did the bulk of filming for that though, because most of the video is that, is the garden and the house and, your wife and
he did all the graveyard bits and the church and all that. Yeah. Literally the bit when it's just her with a candle, that's right. Just what I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's in it enough that it feels more significant, but I guess, ultimately
it did look like it was at the same place though.
It really did. And that was one of the things that we had talked about too, was that he was like, he was talking about the location and, where it starts and everything on the white building and the house, whatever you want to call it. And it just, I love when things like that are done in pieces and in completely different locations. Yeah. It looks so seamless. There was no point where I was like, wait, where the hell are we now? I could not tell you what was where. So you both did quite well. You and your crab walk and your wife and her burning hands.
He's done one for me because my next one, I'm trying to do it on my motorcycle. My wife's technically in it as well. You can see her hands because she's riding behind me with the GoPro on.
Her hands feature heavily, either being burned by a candle or on your motorcycle. Yeah, okay.
But I said to Grimm, I really like them. You don't get the same roads in the UK. I can't explain it. I was like, I just want a big long highway.
Yeah.
And then he starts sending me this footage of I think it's like a nuclear power plant, something, him going past it and up a straight road. And I was like, that'll do. So so I've got my footage, but I've got his as well. I still need to finish that one, but
so you guys are collaborating on videos, you're collaborating on each other's work. And so you're talking about, do you definitively know that Martyr is going to be with Grimm? That's the song. Have you started putting it together yet? Or
I have, but he hasn't yet. So if he's listening,
Joel, glaring at you, Joel. You're just slacking. Get your folders, young man, and get it together. So where is that song in the process? Because that's one of the last few that you have listed for the record. So can you tell us anything about that? Is it more punk? Is it more grunge? Is it more something?
Grunge. It's got a very, I guess you'd say, like the song Heart Shaped Box kind of vibe.
Okay. Okay.
So I haven't changed it really that much from the how I did it originally.
Right.
I've added a few like little extra guitar licks in it and stuff like that. I probably will change a bit of the lyrics, but I like most of what I've got because when I write lyrics, most of the time, although they don't always have coherent meaning, I always try to use big fancy words. So I'll write something. I'm like, that sounds boring though. So then I'll get I'll go online and get the
thesaurus.
Thesaurus.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
What means yeah, that'll do. Half the time I don't even know what the word means, but a lot of the time it will fit. It's like subsistence. I didn't know what that meant, and then it was something like struggling on your own. I was like, well, I've been doing it on my own so far. That works pretty well.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Surviving on not that much, but okay. So you kind of have the refrigerator magnet approach to lyric writing, where it's like, this is a word that fits the meter, and I don't know what it means, but it sounds pretty. So, and then the meaning kind of comes later, I guess. So, but that isn't how Let It Rain came together.
No.
You couldn't have done that. So sometimes you're intentionally writing lyrics that actually, you know what they mean, and you know what all the words are and everything. So,
I mean, like, Alien Nation was it was kind of an anti-establishment. Like I've always had this sort of phrase I've used, corporate livestock, and I think that's what it was originally called, if I recall.
Corporate livestock.
Livestock.
Oh, livestock. Like yeah. Corporate livestock.
And I just. So the lyrics with the last, like the verse was probably the last bit to go on. I'd already figured out all we are is entertainment, to like the government, not everyone's fighting amongst themselves. Yeah. And then, but then the verses came in afterwards, you see.
Well, and I like the play on words of alien nation, right? Because it's an alien nation, but it's also people feeling alienation, which I'm going to assume you intended.
Yeah.
Or maybe it just showed up in the thesaurus. Who knows? But I mean, and I think, punk to me is an inherently angry genre. It's rebellious, and I full disclosure, I've never listened to a ton of punk. I mean, I know the Sex Pistols, I know the Ramones, and I know the vibe and I know the feel. But I'm curious whether you would agree with that assessment of punk as a genre, and then how do you marry that with being active military, armed forces, like where there's a lot of, I would imagine, doing as you're told and being in line and being part of a body. And
it is weird, isn't it? People have said that before.
It's an interesting juxtaposition, because I spoke to, or I'm going to be speaking rather to Chris from I See Gavanen, who's also active military, and there's a very different. He's a different mindset, different vibe from you. But so it's not to say that anybody who's in the military is the same thing. But I mean, how do you reconcile kind of this? I mean, how does somebody who does not care about tempo exist in the army? I'm really curious to hear.
You haven't seen me marching though. It's exactly the same.
There's Lewis. Go get the hook. We got to catch him up again. So what the hell does that look like? Like how does that fit? How does it work? How does it not work?
It's a bit of a weird one. I mean, you can probably tell I haven't got regulation hair, but if it fits under a beret,
you're okay.
I said to my old OC a while ago, we was at a party, not party. It was like, we do these social events occasionally. And he said, your hair's really long. I said, yeah, but it's not against regulation if it's under a beret, is it, sir? And he goes, no. And I went, cheers for that. I'll be telling the Sergeant Major next time he brings it up. So, but it's like, yeah, I guess you're right. You're told what to do all the time. But when the day's over with, once I've closed that door behind me and I'm in my own, because we have like our own little, I guess you could call a flat, but like your own rooms, that's like my time. And I guess it's where I take out my frustrations out on the guitar and all that. So it kind of works in a weird sort of way. But I am going to be a civilian again in like a few months though. So
okay, and then you can just be like that all, and you have to worry about learning how to march on time. That'll be bad. So your life then is kind of bifurcated. You've got your during the day, fall in line, follow the orders, and then at night you come home and you're just Lewis and doing your own thing. And I mean that's. I find that interesting because that could either be really weird and frustrating, or it could give life structure, I guess, that you have something that you're doing every day, exactly what you're doing. You don't even necessarily need to think about it all that much, because you have what you're being told you need to do and you do it. Yeah. And then I thought that was such an interesting combination for you, and I've seen, a couple of videos that you've done on Facebook but I didn't have a real sense of you or your personality or anything until we started talking tonight, obviously. But do you ever get in trouble at work? Can you ever not put the rebel away? Does that ever happen?
I wouldn't say I get in trouble, because I like to think I'm a hard worker. I am a bit of a yes man at work. If they tell me this, 90% of the time I'll do it. I might moan and complain about it, but I'm normally the first to volunteer for something, because there's nothing I hate more than sat around doing nothing. I think I've got ADHD or something. I've always got to be, doing something.
Yeah, that could well be.
Yeah, maybe.
So you wouldn't say you get into trouble. Was there a but to that?
Yeah, I mean, there was last year. We had it was the Queen's Jubilee, I believe it was. It was a parade, and they were like, "You need to cut your hair." And I said, I've paid for some music videos. I'm not cutting my hair until he was like, "Why not?" And I'm like, "How many bold rock stars do you know?" And I made a deal with him, and I can't believe he went for it. He goes, "Okay, but promise me you will cut that off the second them videos are done." I said, "Sir, promise." Literally the second them videos are over with, went home, had my hair cut, went in. He was like, "Cheers, Tiv." Like,
okay, so you were, wow. I guess there are certain people in the armed forces up in the ranks that are cooler about certain things than the movies would have taught me, which is really my only education on it, because I
it's not like the movies at all.
Okay.
Not as much as they'd let you believe, anyway.
Okay. Well, that's probably good, actually, because it's probably a pretty one-sided depiction. But okay, so you're then going to be a civilian again. Do you think you'll have more time to dedicate to your music as a result, or maybe less because you have to get a civilian job? Or
somehow I think I'll have less. I'll try my hardest. Because one of the main reasons I'm coming out is I don't get to see the family enough. I live at the barracks all week, and then I come home at the weekend.
Yeah.
But when I'm home, I'm more than likely going to be looking after the daughter and all that. It's literally a little Lewis. She even looks like me. Favorite band's Nirvana as well.
Hey, all right. You've got a mini me. Yeah. Excellent. Okay.
I mean, I'll try. It depends. But one of the kind of blessings I've got at the moment, my room back at the barracks is it's got really good... I don't know what you'd call it.
What, the acoustics or
the acoustics? Yeah, like that's why I do it, and the reverb's just perfect. Whereas, could you imagine me doing it in here? The echo, it wouldn't.
No, the moth would be eating up all your all your sonic space anyway. Just, but so you're gonna. Well, you'll have to find another, like a hallway or something where you have really good acoustics,
or a shed or something.
So you do most of your recording in the barracks?
It's all in the barracks. So I've basically transformed my room. This has to
be one of the only punk records ever recorded in army barracks.
Yeah, I've got a big TV flag on my wall that I was going to bring it home, and I forgot. I forgot my key a few weeks ago, and the guy who I had to go to the guard room, and when he opened the door, he was like, "Can you please confirm this is your room?" And as he opened the door, he saw the big Tivey written, with the gesture. And
Never mind.
Yeah, literally.
He's like, cheers. Either you have a really big fan who lives right next door to you and has your flag all over the place, or it's definitely that's a pretty good. Actually, I should ask you about that, because I love that logo. Did you come up with that? Is that something that you? Okay.
Yeah. So I saw. It was when I was during my band days, because that was originally the old band logo. I've got the original JPEG of it somewhere. It hasn't really changed. I've just touched it up slightly, made it better quality.
That's a familiar theme with you and your stuff.
Yeah, and then when I left, after all the drama, I basically got all history of me was removed, and I was like, if they're not going to keep that logo, I'm having it, because how much I liked it, so I kept it. But it originally came from, I saw this, I think it was a stock image. It was on something, it was online. Okay. And it was a picture of an anarchy symbol plus a peace symbol. And then it had equal smiley face. And after that, I was like, And I kind of,
That works. Yeah. Cool. Because is it meant to be kind of a jester too?
Yeah. I refer to it as the jester.
Yeah, no, I just because I have my eye on some of your merch. I have so much merch I need to save up to buy, but like I love it's such a distinctive logo, and you use it in really clever ways. You know, in your reels, on your Facebook page, and all of that.
I'm trying.
Are we getting a?
I've copied Grim here. I've even got it on packaging tape.
I just saw it. Yeah, you posted something about, you know, being caught on tape, which made me snort because it was silly and cheesy and very, very funny. So okay. So I you've got these 4 singles for Subsistence out so far. You're inching towards, are you going to be releasing the 5th one that we're getting a little preview of, or are you going to hold that back? Okay, so you're just teasing us.
So the 4 singles are going on. They're going on the album, but the rest of it's I'm keeping.
Okay, so however many are left, which could be 6, could be. We only know titles. That's all we know.
Yeah.
We're not. So when are you aiming to release the album?
To be honest, don't know. Originally last October.
Okay, so we know that's not the date.
Yeah.
Okay.
Originally I wanted kind of October time for now.
Okay.
I suppose it's still achievable, but we'll see. You know, life's been getting in the
3
way
months.
recently.
Yeah,
I'd probably not.
Okay.
But at the same time, I want to do a few videos as well to go out with it. I can't really afford high budget videos at the moment. That's why I've got I bought a GoPro. And,
okay.
Yeah, and the missus bought me a fancy camera last Christmas. So I've got some footage, but I want to maybe do at least 2 videos, and then maybe 1 big budget one, because I have got an idea for Alienation, and but it would cost quite a bit
of money.
But I know what I'd do for it. Normally, I don't really have an idea. Like the Siege video was kind of spontaneous.
I was going to ask you, like, how. So who ended up filming that for you again?
So there's this company called Light Engine Films, I think they're called. I just Googled them, and his name's Dan Hart. He's really good. The Flock one was just kind of a generic, you know, in a old house type thing.
No, but with the lighting and it's cool. It looks higher budget than it sounds like it was.
But the Siege one was interesting because we rocked up to the. It was near Sheffield. I don't know if you know that. It was in the middle of nowhere anyway, and we pull up and it's all like this really abandoned brick factory, and it's all like fenced off. And he looks around and he's like, "Right, we better check security's not around." I'm like, "What do you mean?"
Excuse me,
like, there's security's not here, and then he opens the thing, and I hope no police are watching, because we'd have, you know, that was technically arson, trespassing. Goodness, you know, we're setting. I probably just confessed to a crime, but
we may have to edit that part out.
It's already been on YouTube for a year, so it's a bit late
they probably, if anyone was paying attention, but it was all it was green screen. They weren't really there. They weren't there. Yeah, no, totally weren't there. Just they had the pictures.
The interesting story with that as well was I knew I wanted fire, and I knew I wanted to smash up a guitar for it. So we have these secondhand stores called Cash Generator.
Okay.
So I walked into that, and I didn't really have a budget in mind. I just thought it's going to get smashed. So I'm, you know, I saw this. I saw this cheap Les Paul on the wall, and the woman behind the counter goes, "Oh, do you want to try it out? Because that's the one." I went, "Yep, that's the one." I went, "No, it's not going to be around long enough." So,
it doesn't need to sound good. It just needs to smash well. It
actually broke on the video as well. Like,
I'm sorry?
It actually broke on the video as well before the screw came out with the strap. That's why I'm on my knees for part of the video.
Oh, is that? So that was not planned. that was a salvation move to keep the guitar from just falling off.
Yeah, but we'd already shot enough footage by that point to salvage it.
Oh, cool! No, but that's cool. There
was extra rage smashing it up after that, but I did burn my hand. I got some quite nasty burns from doing that.
Jeez, you and the missus both, with your candle burns and your guitars burn. You gotta slow down. You need your hands. You know, they're kind of key.
We nearly knocked each other off our motorcycles filming the other ones.
So in terms of gear though, and guitars, I mean, like, I see obviously you have one there, but I mean, are you a gearhead? Do you have a bunch of guitars? Do you only have 1 or 2 do you still have a bass?
Yeah, the bass is back at the barracks. The bass is quite interesting because you can buy building kits, and that's what I did. You know, like with the headstock on it is literally a paddle.
Cool.
So I drew it out, and my dad, who's a lot better at me at you know, like with a jigsaw, he carved it out. So it's kind of like a unique little thing.
Oh, that's so cool.
This I couldn't afford, so I bought each piece bit by bit during my university days. I had my part-time job, so I bought that's a 1996 neck, I believe, but the body's from the 70s, I believe. And then that
so you built that too. Oh, yeah, wow.
Bit by bit at a time, because there was no way I could afford a Jaguar.
No, it's beauty though. Oh, wow. That's a cool story. So how long did it take you to get the whole thing together?
Funnily enough, not that long. I think it was maybe a year, maybe.
Oh, that's not terrible.
But the shipping fees, that's what stung me. I was like, oh, I paid it. I've beat the system. And then they were like, yeah, you owe. I think it came to like £99 or something like that. It was a lot.
Shipping. Oh,
yeah. No. This was when I got to the post office and they said, oh, there's a fee. And I was like, what? And then, yeah.
Oh, no.
So I got stung. So it probably would have been cheaper to buy one. But
I was going to say, well, wait a minute. By the time you add all of that up and the time that it took to. But you know what? It's a cooler story that you built it. I like that better. I think that's more interesting, frankly. So we're not sure when Subsistence will be out. It's vaguely possible it may be this October. You're not going to make us wait until next October, are you?
No, it won't be that long. Nowhere near.
Okay. So it may not be an October release date. So do you finish one song at a time fully through mixed mastered, or do you have everything kind of roughed out and then do all of the production bit
at the end? So I've got about 5 songs on, probably got about 8 songs to be fair, but I've probably got about 4 that are close to being done, or in sort of the skeleton stage, as I call it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it varies.
So some of them are mixed and mastered. So it's not like you have one song completely done, fully mixed, mastered. Okay. So like your buddy Grimm was talking about the fact that he always has multiple songs in the works at the same time. He's got all his folders and everything. So it sounds like you do a similar kind of thing where you have, I mean, generally, how many songs are you working on at a time? And I'm assuming you're also continuing to write new stuff as well.
If you count everything I've got off the top of my head, I can probably think of about 8 or 9, but I guarantee I'll probably only put out maybe 4 of them.
Okay. Yeah, because you said you might write 50 songs and only one of them will end up on the. So what happens to the orphaned songs? Is it something that you just completely toss? Is it like you have, are they fully formed songs? Are they just riffs that you kind of have hummed or whatever? Or like what makes you, how far do you get with them? And then what happens that you decide, you know what, this isn't going? Does it not fit on the album, or you just don't like the song itself, or?
Sometimes I'll think they sound too similar. Like the song Architect is a bit of a funny one because I don't actually like that song, but that's the one that always seems to be played. I kind of wrote it as a filler song. And I think it sounds too much like Flock. Like I hear it in my head because I just see it. I wrote one the other day and I was like, this is a really good riff, and then realized this sounds scarily similar to Never Better. So I was like, nah.
You're copying yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would say that Architect and Flock sound particularly similar to me, but I mean, I'm not steeped in the music the way that you are, but it's like, if actually Architect, there were elements of it that kind of reminded me of Grimrock's Haunted in a way. You know, it kind of has a similar beat, and there's some elements that remind me. But I got more of almost like a Garbage feel from Flock. Like it sounded more 90s to. I don't know. Like so, I don't. I mean, I want to tell you what, but to think of your own music. But I wonder if maybe you aren't being overly critical of what you're doing. But I guess if you're that prolific where you may have 50 songs or whatever, you pick one, you don't really have to care that much because there's always another song coming along. But I mean, so do you ever come back to some of those later? Because you do seem to go back to things and either rework them or re-record them. So is it possible that a lot of those will eventually see the light of day, or?
It depends. It really depends. Like I nearly dropped Faithless Martyr at one point. And then I started on it again. I was like, you know, I can make it work. And that was one that has survived the recycle bin, as it were, on the computer.
So how did you end up deciding that Grim was going to be like the secret element on that one? Why did you pick that one in particular to collaborate with him on finally?
I just really like how he does his bass tones and like the riffs. Whereas if I did it, I know I'd just copy the guitar riff and it wouldn't sound right, you know. Whereas with him, I know he'll make it creative because, as I say, I just focus on the guitar and the vocals and that's it. And the rest of it's kind of like, but yeah, I think he could spice it up, to be fair.
Yeah,
no, just saying with what I've changed on it from how I originally wrote it, it already sounds a lot better than it was anyway. But it could be even better if, you know, someone else, because a lot of the time the stress is where you're working all on your own. You know, you're thinking, I've got to do this, got to do that. It really takes the pressure off. You know,
to have someone,
you've got someone else helping you, and it just, I don't know, I seem to come up with better ideas when the pressure's off a little bit.
No, I understand that. Like, I mean, I think sometimes it's easier to edit a story than write a story, so to speak, you know, that like if you've got something, and one of the things that sounds like it would be cool to collaborate with you for is that you don't seem to be closed off to, I mean, Trench seems to do a lot of, makes a lot of changes, adds things, takes things out, re-records whole parts, you know, if he feels like it. And if John did that, if Trenchgun did that and you weren't open to it, that could be disastrous, right? I mean, you wouldn't be able to collaborate with him, first of all, but I mean, it sounds like so like for Alienation, you said to him, if I think that was the one that you said, don't change too much. So you clearly had a vision for that. But for something like, you know, when he went back and had completely redone the bass, like, was it that you just thought it sounded better?
Yeah.
Or was it, okay. So
better.
okay. So it's not so much that, you know, for one song, you just had a really strong idea and you didn't want it to change. It was that, you know, you thought you felt that way before, but because he came up with something that made the song sound better, you were like, okay, you know what? Yeah, that's fine. Let's use that.
It's a weird one because it's like, if it was never better, I can't imagine that played any other way. That's how I wouldn't want to edit that one. Whereas I'm quite open-minded with other stuff. You know, I just felt it worked. If something doesn't sound good and I wrote it, I'll admit it. As you say, I'm probably overcritical on myself. But
I think so.
but when I heard what he'd done to it, I was like, I like that.
So, but there are some then that Alienation, Never Better, where you're like, no, you know what? This is what it's supposed to sound like. So it sounds like you do. And it's interesting because both of those, I mean, especially Never Better, where I feel like that one is more, it's not punk to me in that way. It does have more of that grunge Nirvana kind of feel. And I wonder if the genre makes a difference for you in terms of how open to changing something you are or not. Does that, I mean, if you can think of other ones, does that track? Is there like a pattern to the stuff that, I mean, obviously, irrespective of genre or whatever song or whatever, if somebody does something on it and all of a sudden you're like, okay, that sounds way better than what we had before, that's a no-brainer, right? But like, you know, the ones that you get a little bit more, not protective of, but that you're more staunch in saying, no, this is the way this needs to be played. This is how the bass line needs to go here or whatever. Like, are those certain songs? Is it like, what about those makes it harder for you to imagine them differently?
I think there is a part of it. It might depend on the song. I mean, Never Better, I didn't really release until quite a while after it came out. And the main reason was I was scared of getting bad reviews on it because I really liked it. As silly as that sounds. You know, Seedu and all them, I put out straight away Never Better because I'd worked on it for so long because I could never get the vocal melody quite right.
Yeah, you said what, like 6 months or something?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's a lot of time.
Never Better was originally called Bittersweet, and that was supposed to be the main song. On
the title for the the title song.
It never ended up happening. But when I eventually released it, I think that's still my most popular song to date, which is weird. But having said that, I think it's because me and Trench get on so well and we're so similar in styles. Because the drummer before, I didn't always like what he used to put out, and I used to tell him, I'm like the drums he put for Alienation. That's kind of why I swapped to Trench, because I said I don't like it. It needs speeding up, and then it was like too fast. I was like, no. I just don't think he got the vibe I was kind of going for.
Look at you paying
And School of
attention to
Misfits,
tempo.
I think I sent him like 4 times,
Okay.
and he said he couldn't lay drums to it. He couldn't figure out a tempo or how it'd work. I sent it Trench, and he'd done it in like a day. So
he just got what you were going for.
He understands me.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's funny, but that's really important because you guys do work so closely together, and I mean, really, for someone to say, yeah, you know what, I re-recorded your bass, and for you to go, yeah, you know what, you were right to do that. That's better. Like that, there's a lot of trust there, because you could have really not responded well to that and been within your right. It was your song, and he did more than you asked him to do. But I mean, do you find as you go that do you ever have that experience where you're headed in one direction and then Trench goes, what about doing it this way, and you will kind of veer off? Or you guys usually more in lockstep on things like that?
It depends. It's normally more of a timing issue. He'll say, you need to tighten this up, and I'm like, I ain't tightening nothing up. It's fine. It normally tends to be on how the mix is done more than anything.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the time I'll say the vocals are too quiet. The vocals are way too quiet. Can you turn my vocals up, please? And, but then I've had it before where they're way too loud. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I like really loud, snappy drums, where you can pop hear the
yeah
type thing. And he can do it. He can really get that sound. I can't remember what it was on. I think it might be the newest one, actually. He did them, and then he managed to get an even better tone out of them. I was like, I want it like that. So it's not that it's perfect every time, because I will tell him if something isn't. It's just, I think with that similar, most of the time, we kind of hit it, and straight away it's like, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, you're on the same page. No, and I mean, like, I could see, because your guitar tone is sort of a specific element of your sound depending on what you're playing. So I imagine that's something you pay a lot of attention to.
Yeah, so I don't think a lot of the stuff I do would work if I didn't have my own specific tone, because most of the songs I do, not all of them, but I think literally 1 or 2 are the only ones that haven't got it. I always keep so most of the time I'll start off with a clean guitar, right?
Okay.
But if you listen carefully, most of the song still has the clean all the way through on top of the distortion, because I like that with
brightness to it.
Yeah, with a Jaguar, that's one of the main reasons I got it. It has a really sort of, I've always referred to it as a clangy, tinny. It's like you can hear the actual metal clanging,
like a jangly. Yeah.
And I think if you don't hear it, it's a waste of the guitar tone. And I just keep. So it doesn't always work, but most of the time it does.
Yeah, you definitely, and then when you're doing more of your grunge elements, you do use a different tone. Are you using a completely different guitar?
No.
Okay, so it's always the Jaguar. Okay.
I've got so how I mix it, I've got I use the software Mixcraft. There's probably better out there, but I've been using, I think I got shown that in school, actually, and that's the one I've just always been drawn to.
Okay.
There's a guitar, because I just do it straight for an interface. I don't use an amp. I have got amps, but when I'm recording, I use it.
Yeah, why not just, yeah.
But I've got this tone I use. It's so that pedal, I think it's called the Big Muff or something like that. Okay. And then there's a plugin called Hot American Fuzz.
Okay.
So I liked both of them, but couldn't quite decide. So I kind of you can edit how the distortion is. So I kind of did it so they're both together. So I called it the Fuzzy Muff, and that's what I. So that's what that is. It's both. It's both guitar pedals kind of incorporated into one. That's my main guitar distortion sound.
Okay. So you really did specifically create it.
Yeah. So the original, I think a few on Bittersweet didn't have it. They've got a slightly different guitar tone.
Okay.
I have tried to move away from it occasionally, but I always seem to get drawn back to it. But I've also got my own like solos and sustain sounds. As I said earlier, I use the EBO,
right,
which apparently you're not supposed to use it like that, but that's how I use it. So
who cares how you're
yeah.
supposed to do? You don't seem super worried about how you're
Nah.
supposed to do most things. So if you want to use your ebow the way you want to use it, nobody's going to stop you.
Absolutely.
So yeah, okay. So you do pay a lot. I thought so. A lot of attention to tone, and because it is distinctive. And I think especially with the genres that you generally tend to play in, the tone is even more important than it might be for some others. So that makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm going to be interested to hear how you and Grimm sound together musically, because you do have different tones, you have different sounds. So that's going to be, is it going to be the kind of thing where you're doing your own individual things, or are you going to, do you think maybe try to get him to use more of the fuzzy muff type of tone, or I guess you're going to want a different sonic space for him anyway, right?
When he does Faithless Martyr, I'll kind of push him to do more my sort of sound. I won't, obviously I'm not going to stifle someone's creativity, so I'll be like, go wild, but at the same time I'll be kind of like, try to keep it within what it is. But if we ever did say our own song together, it'd be like, go for it, and if one style
you're gonna have to do that, you realize.
You
two are gonna have to write a song, like a whole new song, just the two of you together, because you could, I don't know, Grim Tivy or something.
I've tried to, I said to Trench and Grim, why don't we call, they did a little collaboration. I can't remember what they called it. Trench Rock, I think they called it.
Yeah, it was Trench Rock. Yeah.
So I was like, what shall we call ourselves? And I was like, shall we be the Grim Trench Jesters or something like that? But
that's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
I like the Grim Jesters is cool, because it just doesn't, a jester's supposed to be all, but then where would we put your Grim Jester Guns?
Well, there's a funny story behind the name, because I always used, I still don't really like using my own name, but the reason I did it was so the problem Grimm's got is his name is brilliant. You can use it all kinds of adjectives. You can say, spreading the grim and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's grimtastic. Yeah.
But if you Google him, it comes up with like a 1980s video game or something like that.
Oh,
Grim.
Really?
I can't remember when it was from. So although his stuff does come up, he kind of gets overshadowed a little bit by it on the algorithms, whereas on mine it doesn't. You see, and I don't tend to use my first name as much anymore. I just Tivey's playing this, which I kind of wish I'd done originally, but
well, you got there. That's and you can always go back and rebrand, because that's what you do.
But I don't know what I'd call myself. I'm better with song names, and although having said that, most songs have about 10 different names before I settle on the final one.
Oh, really? Okay. So you have just too many ideas for song names. That's so I mean, do you, because some of them it's, like Friendly Neighborhood Infiltrator, that's the chorus, right? So, but like they're an Alienation too, I guess, but like you're not always naming it after a lyric.
No.
So when you're not, does it just come to you? Well, I guess a bunch of them come to you if you have like 10 songs. Yeah,
pretty much. It's completely random.
Okay. And like, is that something that eventually you just say, screw it, I'm going to pick this one? Or do you really like hem and haw about what to call your songs? Because it does. Oh,
most
you do?
Of the time. Yeah. This moth's attacking me now.
he's really going for screen time now, man.
It does
Grim
depend.
Moth.
But it depends on the song, because like I can't even remember what, I think Alienation was called Caviar Circus, something like that, and it was kind of a
I like that too.
Yeah, it was kind of like a stab to like, the bureaucrats at the top having their fun and stuff like that. So, but I go through so many different names for them. Some of them, the songs, a lot of time the titles don't make sense, but it's what I go for.
You're like, I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care. I like it, and I'm going to call it, and that's it. That's all. So I mean, I wanted to ask you too, because you and Grimrock were both on a compilation album, right? Was it Exist Loudly? I think.
Was that for Surge FX magazine?
I think so. Yes. Yeah. So how did you end up on the compilation?
We'd already been in the magazine, which is like a monthly thing. I think they were just advertising, and we was like, oh, that'd be cool. So we just applied and we got it. So yeah, that was
kind of
pretty
cool
much
that you
all there
both
was
ended up.
to it.
Oh, so okay, no major story there,
No,
but that
no,
was no. I'm always happy when I see the indie artists getting anything outside of the bubble, you know, in terms of, and you've had some sort of unexpected press in the past too, I guess, and attention on the music where it seems like, you know, I think that it sounded like that was what was sort of driving you to figure out social media in the first place. Kind of like, oh, well, okay, there's an audience here. I should probably be talking to them. So, I mean, do you, cause you're not pummeling people on your page. You're not overly promotional. You seem to like to fly under the radar a little bit more. Do you feel like once Subsistence is ready to come out, I'm assuming that will change at least a little bit?
A little bit. I sort of just spam people. This moth. Like, yeah. I kind of do push before release, but I don't go wild, if you're with me. Because it just, it's like when a lot of people, I don't get it as much anymore, but I used to get quite a lot of people posting their new releases on my page. I was like, wow, that's kind of rude. You know what I mean? And
there's a balance you have to strike, because you want people to know about it, but you don't want to annoy them so much that they won't listen to your music just out of spite. So and there is an etiquette too. You know, I like in the Band Together group, I deal with that all the time. You know, people spamming their links on everyone else's posts, and it's like, dude, don't be that guy. You know? Yeah,
it winds me up when they do that. So
so, but you are gonna have to tell people about the album. You're allowed to do that. I think you should I think you're sort of supposed to do that, actually. But yeah, you seem pretty chill about the whole thing. So
I think it's because originally I had the mentality where I was like, I'll put stuff out that I like, and if anyone else likes it, it's a bonus type thing. And now that I've got more well known, I kind of haven't shifted out of that mentality a little bit. I'm trying, but it's kind of like, it's out when it's out, and if you like it, great. If not, then
but again, that's pretty punk too, right? You know, you can't just cater to the masses and then call yourself punk in any way. That doesn't make any sense. But you're not obnoxious about it. It's not like, oh, if you don't like my music, fuck you. And what I mean, like, you know, you're not doing that, which I think. Good choice, by the way. That's generally not a super popular marketing technique. People like, screw you in my audience. I don't even like you anyway. But so okay. So we know that at some point in the not too distant future, the remaining songs, however many of them you decide for them to be, 4, 6, 8, however many, are going to come out as the album Subsistence. We know people can listen back to Bittersweet from last year. And you've got a plan to let us know when new singles are done, but not release them. So we're going to get teased, but we're not going to get anything. And then we know that we will expect a collaboration with Grimrock, which I'm excited. I'm excited to hear that one. No, it has to happen. I'm going to yell at Joel if it doesn't happen, because you've got your part done. So Joel, Grim, we're mad at you. Do it. Do your homework. Do it. We have to hear this song. But so, just before we wrap up, is there anything else besides the album, whatever, that you're particularly excited about musically? Any side stuff that you're working on? Any standalone singles that you're doing apart from the album? Anything that you wanted to shout out particularly?
Well, there's the punk stuff I'm going to be doing with Trench. This is the thing I was saying to the others the other day. Once Subsistence is out, I don't know what to do after it, because I've got so many ideas but not enough time. You know, I've been telling Grim, he's really good at writing 60s psychedelic songs. Saying, can we do something like that? Because I'd love it.
That'd be cool.
The clangy guitar and all that, it'd work perfect. I've always said if I could do anything, like anything, I wouldn't do the whole grunge rocking thing. I'd bring back 1950s rock and roll, Elvis style, Eddie Cochran, and that's what I'd love to do. But I know I wouldn't be able to match the same tones.
Oh wow!
You know, I just wouldn't be able to recapture the magic of it. That's why I haven't done anything like that so far.
Why that? I mean, I'm not questioning it. I think there's so much good music there, but like, why that more than anything else? If you could do literally anything, what lights up your brain about that?
I've got some really probably obscure, you know. A lot of the stuff I like, people wouldn't think that I like. I'm a hardcore Elvis fan. I mean, I've got an Elvis statue on the wall up here.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, Eddie Cochran.
I could actually see you being an Elvis guy.
I'm a huge Elvis fan.
Yeah, I could see you being an. Okay, so Eddie Cochran. Who else do you listen to? Because I know you talked about punk and you talked about grunge, but you clearly have other influences.
Michael Jackson, love Michael Jackson. David Bowie, Freddie Mercury. Well, Queen in general.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, there's loads. Literally, Eminem. That's a one people don't tend to see. I'm not a big fan of rap, but Eminem, yeah.
Eminem's kind of his own genre, I think. Yeah, and he's I didn't always love his lyrics. They were not always the nicest, but you cannot fault his facility with words. That guy is a real poet in his way. So Elvis and Eminem, and okay.
me and the other half love, I don't know if you've heard of him, the White Buffalo. We're huge fans. He's like an acoustic-y blues, but it's quite upbeat. He did some of the songs on the TV series Sons of Anarchy.
I've heard. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I know of it. He's
great.
The White Buffalo. Okay, I always have homework after these interviews because at least one band is mentioned that I've never ever heard of. But okay.
Yeah.
What else do you listen to anything kind of current? Not that some of those things aren't.
No.
Yeah.
Like indie underground. Probably Rammstein. That's but they're not really new. You know what I mean?
No, they're definitely not new. But okay, yeah. So you're all over the place musically. Then you like a little bit of everything.
I like classical. I like Richard Wagner, even and stuff like Beethoven, that type of thing. Which is weird because I'm not really technically musical, but yeah.
But I don't think you need to be to like certain music, at least, or really any music. But okay, so that wow, 50s rock and roll. I feel like you need to do that, Lewis.
If I could,
because maybe if you and Grimm did it together, then you'd only have half the workload.
Yeah.
And you would have someone else to bounce it off of, which you said takes the pressure off of you. Yeah. Don't throw that idea away. That could be, I could really see the two of you going to town on something like that. I mean, I know it's different from what he does, but I mean, he is a rock guy. And, as you said, there's a lineage there, that rock will start. So all right. You and Joel and I are going to have to get on a call. I'm going to have to broker this deal because I just want to hear that album. I want to hear you do an Elvis impression. That's my new goal in life. There you go. So, okay. So, at some point, Subsistence will be out. We know we've got the punk EP with Trenchgun that you're working on and at least one Grimm collab in the works. So we have a lot to look forward to from you. But Lewis, we have to end the show as we always do, where I put you in the Vox seat. So I have 5 questions for you. I ask the same 5 questions of everybody. And I rarely get the same answers, and with you, there's one question in particular I'm very curious to hear you answer. But let's start with the first one. Yeah. If you had to sum up your music in 5 words or less, what would you say?
In the wrong decade.
Okay. And you even have an extra word there left over. So I think I know, but what decade would you put yourself in?
The best one, the 90s.
The best one. I don't know if it's the best one. It's one of the better ones. It's better than,
if I could go back to any time, it'd be the
1920s or whatever. You would go back to the 90s?
Oh, yeah.
So tell me why. Is it just a Glory Days thing, or just you liked everything about it better? Or
so I know I was a kid and perhaps I was naive, I didn't know about world affairs, politics and all that, but it just seems, the Cold War had ended. It was before 9/11. It just seemed like there was more optimism and prosperity. The video games, the movie, everything. It was the aesthetics of it. I can't explain it. And maybe it's nostalgia kicking in, but it was perfect. I can't explain it. It was, yeah.
Yeah, well, I could definitely see wanting to go back to something rather than being where we currently are. So I can understand that. I liked a lot about the 90s too. Actually, I really did. It now I don't know if I'm just at the age where I'm turning into my mom or whatever. But like I listen to music now and I look at movie releases now and I'm like, I'm not interested in any of that. It all looks boring. Let's
I'm
watch
like that
something
now.
I've watched. Yeah. So
I haven't watched TV since 2006. So
yeah, or I will watch back things that I've seen 100 times, like I'll watch back old series that I love or whatever. So I there's a lot to be said for nostalgia. So I can completely understand. Okay, so in the wrong decade. I like that. That is, nobody has said that yet. So there, you've already surprised me. So, okay. Your favorite thing about being a musician?
And it's more of a recent thing, like in the past year. It's I've for most cases I found the indie rock community, like the underground scene. It's almost like a little music commune. Like everyone helps each other out. I mean, even I've got friends who are rappers. Even like, I'm quite creative, and I've made like Spotify canvases, covers, that type of stuff for some of them, and it's just like if you know someone who can do something and you do it for them, they might do something for you one day. That's not why I do it. I do it just because I like being nice. But
right,
yeah, it's quite cool how everyone brings something to the table.
So just that community, the support, like the
and in a selfish kind of way, I kind of think, obviously we're trying to get our music out there, more exposure, but at the same time, kind of like I don't want it to either, because I don't want it to spoil the magic of that little underground community.
I know what you mean. Yeah. There's a, once somebody makes it big, then they're mainstream, right? And then they're not part of that community anymore. So I understand that. Yeah. I mean, we wish everyone success, but then hopefully they'll just still hang out with us anyway. Even if they've made it big. So, okay. So I like that, the community. So then the flip side of the question is, what is your least favorite thing about being a musician? Besides tempo.
Probably tempo, but it varies. It's probably because of my current job more than anything, but I always feel a bit like the odd man out. And I know I am a little bit anyway. I've always been like that. But I kind of find that rock musicians are kind of I won't say a dying breed, but even I've noticed in the past maybe 10, 15 years, there's like none around. You have to go into a voyage or into cyberspace to find it, and I do hear that a fair bit. Yeah. Well, we've been being told for decades that rock is dying, but it does seem to be harder for rock musicians to find each other these days. So okay, so your least favorite thing is then just being kind of an outsider, sort of. Yeah, because I think there's kind of not a stigma that goes with it. I can't really explain it, but people think, oh, he's a rock musician, he's all like this and that. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think, you definitely seem, we're talking about rock, but you do seem to embody the punk aesthetic, pretty well. That, that's sort of the rebel, the loner, the outsider, the person that isn't necessarily fitting in or being understood or whatever. And like, I think, what's cool is that in inhabiting that and making the music that you do, you actually draw people to you, and when I talk to metal musicians, specifically, I've talked a fair bit about the idea of, metal tends to be in the fringe of society. I think punk could be put there too. And the harder core your version of that is, the more boldly you're drawing a line between yourself and everybody else on the other side of it, right? And so what's cool is that you can be an outsider and then collect a group of other outsiders who connect with what you're doing with your music. And so I think for you, the fact that you have two brothers in arms in Trenchgun and Grimrock, that you definitely are not on the outside. But I think even sometimes when we're not actually on the outside, we can feel as though we are. So I totally understand that. But I have the feeling that as more of your music comes out, you're going to find more and more of those like-minded people coming out of the woodwork. So I think that'll be a good thing. But okay, that's a very Tivey answer to give me on that. I appreciate that. So This is the one I'm really especially interested to hear your answer, given that I've heard. Oh, good Lord.
So I'm trying to get that moth.
I was going to say the moth is just trashing. See how punk is that? You have to just break down your whole set now. So if you could only listen to one album, one alone, for the rest of your life, what album would you pick and why?
It'd probably be... It'd either be... this is a tough one.
Yeah.
Probably Nevermind Nirvana.
Okay, why that one over the other ones that you could? Why over a Soundgarden or an Elvis or a?
I think it's just because, like, I remember the first time hearing "Come as You Are," and like when you hear a song for the first time, when it conjures certain emotions, and I remember just hearing it for the first time. If I could listen to any song for the first time ever again, it'd be that one, because I remember hearing it and thinking, "Wow!" Because I knew about "Smells Like Teen Spirit" because my dad had showed me when I was a lot younger, and I thought it was brilliant. And do you know when it comes up even on older YouTube, it used to, if you like this, you might like this type thing.
Yeah.
And it used to, and "Come as You Are" always used to come up. And a lot of bands, not all bands, but some bands, they have like a one hit and then the other stuff isn't as good.
Right.
And for some reason, I really liked them. And I was like, I don't want to be disappointed by the next one. So I was scared to listen to the other stuff. But when I
get that. Yep.
So I heard "Come as You Are." And then after that, I was like, oh, that was really good. I'll give another one a try. Then it was Heart-Shaped Box. And after that, my room was just covered in Nirvana posters.
You're like, okay, 3 for 3. I think this band is safe.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a never mind. Yeah, that's definitely certainly one of the most popular albums ever, I guess. But so for you, it's that it takes you back to hearing it for the first time and what you felt when you heard it. Yeah, I actually liked the question that you answered for yourself about if I could only go back and hear one song again for the first time. That's a great question too. But "Come as You Are" that's your number one Nirvana. So okay.
Well, not my favorite one, funny enough.
Really?
All Apologies is.
That's your favorite one?
Yeah.
So how come it's not "Come as You Are"?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's pretty close, but I've always said, like, of all the hundreds, and I like more songs than just Nirvana. Right. There's loads I love. Radio Gaga is probably like my second favorite song ever, maybe.
Great song.
Yeah, but I've always said, for some reason, All Apologies is like, it's just always spoke to me, and I don't know why.
Huh. You don't know if it's lyrically or musically or both?
Probably both. I don't know. It's just weird. It's
okay. You're like, I like it, but I don't know why. But that's okay. You don't have to know why. You just have to like it. That's all. So, okay. So we've got that album. All right. Here it is. This is it. Are you ready? You and the Moth need to weigh in. This is the last question. Okay.
Yeah.
Your toilet paper roll. Does the toilet paper sit over top, or do you pull it out from under the bottom of the roll?
Oh God, no.
It's over.
I'm not a barbarian. It's got to be. If this was the toilet paper, it'd be like that.
Okay. So your answer, because I always ask people to explain their answer. So your answer is that you are not a barbarian. So the implication
that's uncivilized. No. Ooh.
Okay, you hear it, and you're hearing it in an English accent, which gives it more credibility, right? Because that's just what Americans tend to think.
Tally ho.
Okay. So that's it. You weren't even going to consider the possibility or an over. Does the missus agree with you on this one, or is this a split household? Or are you just over toilet paper?
No. That's how it's got to be.
You're raising the littles in that stead as well, I imagine.
Oh yes, it's like people who drink tea without sugar and all that. How uncivilized! It's
you barbarian, you beast. Okay, well now we know when he's going to hold his Tivey tape, he's going to have it from over top. So, Lewis, you are you're even cooler than I thought you were going to be. I'm so glad that you didn't pass out from dehydration and that the moth didn't kill you and no slugs or spiders attacked you or anything. And I'm telling you, you've got to get some selfies of that shot because that would make an awesome album cover, or at least a single cover with the brick and you can have our little name in there too. We'll get a little Easter egg, but I'm so glad you came on to talk to me today, and I'm really looking forward to hearing Subsistence when it comes out, and especially the Grimrock collab, because now I have two of my buddies in the same place. And thank you so much for being on Vox and Guest today.
No, thank you for having me. Been looking forward to it.
Well, you're very welcome. My pleasure. So, all right, guys, that's it. That's another episode of Vox and Guest. We will see you next time. Bye.